Certainly, here's a detailed story of Ed Geins' life and crimes. Imagine a small, quiet town in the heartland of America. Plainfield, Wisconsin, 1957, a place where everyone knows each other, where people go to bed with their doors unlocked. But hidden in the outskirts is a dark secret waiting to be uncovered, the twisted world of Ed Gein, a man whose crimes would inspire some of the most terrifying characters in horror history. This is the story of Ed Gein, a man whose gruesome deeds shocked the world and became the basis for infamous horror films like Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs. Early life. Ed Gein was born on August 27, 1906, to a deeply religious mother, Augusta, and an alcoholic father, George. His childhood was far from ordinary. Augusta was a fanatically religious woman, who despised her husband and instilled in her sons, Ed and Henry, a fear of sin, women, and the outside world. Augusta believed that all women, except herself, were instruments of evil. She raised Ed to be utterly dependent on her, sheltering him from society and punishing him for any sign of independence. Ed's father died when he was young, and by the 1940s, it was just him and his mother, as Henry had died in a suspicious fire that some believe Ed might have caused. After Augusta's death in 1945, Ed was left alone for the first time in his life. Her passing shattered him. He became isolated, retreating further into his disturbed mind. Alone in his decaying farmhouse, Ed boarded up most of the house, leaving only his mother's room untouched as a shrine. With no close friends or family, his twisted obsessions began to fester. The crimes begin. Ed Gein's crimes began with grave robbing. Driven by a desire to reconnect with his mother and twisted by years of repression, he started visiting local cemeteries under the cover of darkness. He dug up recently buried bodies, many of whom bore a resemblance to his mother, and began experimenting with their remains. Gein wasn't interested in murder just yet, his fascination was with the dead. In his isolated farmhouse, he began creating gruesome artifacts from human remains. Skin, bones, and other body parts were repurposed into household items. Ed crafted bowls from skulls, lampshades from human skin, and even a suit made entirely of human flesh. His goal was to become his mother, to wear her skin as if he could bring her back to life. The murders of Mary Hogan and Bernice Worden on December 8, 1954, Ed Gein's first known victim disappeared. Her name was Mary Hogan, a local tavern owner with a brash personality, a stark contrast to Ed's shy and awkward demeanor. She vanished without a trace, leaving behind a pool of blood in her tavern. Ed later admitted to killing Hogan and taking her body back to his farmhouse, where he performed unspeakable acts on her remains. 3 years later, on November 16, 1957, Bernice Worden, a hardware store owner in Plainfield, disappeared. Witnesses reported that Ed had been in her store the morning she vanished, inquiring about antifreeze, which left a crucial paper trail. When authorities searched Gein's home, they found Worden's body, decapitated and hung upside down like a deer, her body mutilated beyond recognition. But that was only the beginning. The House of Horrors. When the police entered Ed Gein's farmhouse, they found a scene that defied comprehension. Gein's home was littered with human remains, furniture upholstered with human skin, masks made from women's faces, a belt made of nipples, and boxes of body parts preserved like grotesque souvenirs. Every room held evidence of his unspeakable acts, from skull bowls to an entire skin suit that he'd fashioned in an attempt to become a woman, specifically his mother. The press dubbed Gein the Butcher of Plainfield. The quiet, odd man the town had known for years was revealed to be one of the most depraved killers in American history. Trial and legacy. Ed Gein's trial was a media sensation. He was declared mentally unfit to stand trial and was sent to a psychiatric institution, where he would spend the rest of his life. In 1968, he was finally tried and found guilty of the murder of Bernice Worden, but due to his mental illness, he was committed to a mental hospital rather than prison. Gein remained institutionalized until his death in 1984. Ed Gein's legacy left an indelible mark on horror and pop culture. His crimes inspired characters like Norman Bates from Psycho, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Buffalo Bill from The Silence of the Lambs. The gruesome artifacts he created, his obsession with his mother, and his macabre fascination with the dead cemented him as one of the most terrifying figures in criminal history. To this day, the farmhouse where Gein committed his crimes is gone, burned down by townspeople who couldn't bear to let it remain. But the memory of Ed Gein and his horrific acts endures, casting a long, dark shadow over the town of Plainfield and beyond. Reflection: Ed Gein's story is one of tragedy, horror, and a descent into madness. He wasn't the typical serial killer seeking fame or revenge. His motives were rooted in his disturbed relationship with his mother, his isolation, and a twisted desire to reconnect with the dead. Gein's life raises disturbing questions about the effects of abuse, isolation, and mental illness, and serves as a grim reminder of the horrors that can unfold when the darkness within is left unchecked. So next time you watch a horror movie, remember, sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not born in Hollywood, they're born in the shadows of our own world, in quiet places like Plainfield, Wisconsin.